It's a good start. All right, quick question. So why does Gary Keller share the story of the 4-minute mile in The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, right? And I'll get to the answer on that in just a second. I want to start, though. I have 4 major points to share with you. And before I do that, please just write down that 90% of success is mindset. We're going to take a break from the shift conversation today. Some of you are like, thank God. And we're going to have a conversation on mindset because mindset really matters. Mindset really matters right now. Okay. And 90% of success is mindset. I have 4 major points on the core beliefs about success. Number 1, fears are educated into us and can be, if we wish, be educated out. All right, fears are educated into us and can be, if we wish, be educated out. The second point that I have for you is at best, your beliefs can lead to great confidence, and at worst, they can lead to extreme doubt. The third point that I have for you is if allowed to exist, doubts can truly undermine your confidence, your actions, and ultimately your dreams. And the fourth major point that I have for you today is the source of most of our fears is myth. In other words, they're not real, they're a myth. What sets us free from them is truth. It's about learning to look past your fears, to look to the truth of a situation, investigating the myths, and avoiding the misunderstandings that hold us back. Now, exposing realistic as a myth. In other words, is this realistic? Well, I want to tell you that that's a word that you should probably take out of your vocabulary. Realistic is a myth, and I have 4 questions for you. First question, what's your ultimate potential? If you're taking notes, please write this in the form of what's my ultimate potential? And I love it when I look up and I see people taking notes because this is not entertainment. This is growth. We meet and have every day and have this conversation every day in order to grow together on a path to mastery. And if you're showing up for entertainment, you tuned into the wrong channel. All right. That would be another channel. What's your ultimate potential? What's my ultimate potential? The second question I want you to write down is, what are your limitations? The third question I want you to write down is, what are you capable of achieving? What am I capable of achieving? And then the fourth question is, what is your ceiling? What is my ceiling? In other words, do you know what your ultimate potential is? So again, the 4 questions are, what's your ultimate potential? What are your limitations? What are you capable of achieving? What is your ceiling? In other words, do you know what your ultimate potential is? You know, in The Traveler's Gift, Andy Andrews shares this story about the word realistic. And David Ponder, the main character of The Traveler's Gift, if you haven't read the book, please put it on your reading list. David Ponder is visiting with the Archangel Gabriel, and he's visiting with him at a warehouse. In this warehouse, it doesn't say this in the book, but it definitely implies this, that this warehouse is in heaven. And at one point, David Ponder asked, am I dead? Is that why I'm here? I'm talking to the Archangel Gabriel. I must be dead. And Gabriel laughs and says, no, you're not dead. And here's the conversation. I just want to share it with you from the story. Gabriel laughed. David Ponder asked, is it realistic for me to work and live expecting miracles? Gabriel laughed. You are quite amusing, David Ponder, he said. What is this word realistic? It is never used here. Okay? Meaning in heaven, we don't use that word. We don't use that word realistic. Talk to me. Tell me what it is. David Ponder responded, You're kidding me, right? Gabriel responded, yes, of course, I'm kidding you. But it is a fact that great leaders, great achievers are rarely realistic by other people's standards. Somehow, these successful people, often considered strange, pick their way through life, ignoring or not hearing negative expectations and emotions. There's too many real estate agents for you to succeed. The market is oversaturated with real estate agents. We're in a shift. Sales are dropping. There's more real estate agents in South Florida than there are listings. Fact.
Yeah, sure.
Consequently, they accomplish one great thing after another, never having heard what cannot be done. That is precisely why one should never tell a young person that something cannot be done. God may have been waiting centuries for someone ignorant enough of the impossible to do that very thing. Nobody knows what their ultimate potential is. I asked you a few minutes ago to write down the question, what is my potential? And my response to that question is nobody knows. Nobody knows their ultimate potential. And if you don't know, then how can you possibly judge what is realistic? How can you say something's unrealistic if you don't know what your potential is? Honestly, what good does it do to talk about what is realistic when in the end, we don't even know what we're truly capable of achieving? So the question of whether you can or can't do something someday should probably never be considered. Once you try and achieve one thing you thought might not be possible, think of something that you do today that at one point you thought this is impossible, right? I remember in my 20s when I was selling for the fundraising company in Ohio, and my goal was to earn $100,000. That was my ceiling. That's the number that I was looking for, right? And it was unrealistic. I mean, I grew up in a house where we had no money and we were poor, right? Really poor. And $100,000 to me was like, that's just crazy. There's no way I can ever earn that much money until I did. And then $100,000 became a new floor. In other words, anything less than $100,000 was unacceptable. But at some point, it was unrealistic to me. By the time I got out of sales in 2015 to become your team leader, I was earning over $900,000 a year selling real estate. It was easy. At one point, it was impossible. And then it became easy. I'm going to read this to you again now that I shared that with you. Once you try and achieve one thing you thought might not be possible, it becomes easier and easier for you to see the impossible and then achieve it. So Gary Keller, I asked you a few minutes ago, why did Gary Keller share the story of the 4-minute mile in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent? And I'm just going to share that story with you from page 52 of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Remember the 4-minute mile. The 4-minute mile was long considered impossible. Please pay attention. Please, please, please pay attention. Sportscasters and experts all deemed it outside the realm of human ability. In other words, the world was telling us this isn't possible. He doesn't say this in the book, but because I've studied this, I know this to be fact. The scientists were actually saying at that time in history that the human heart wasn't built for us to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. The speculation was that the heart would explode and the person would die. That it was not possible. Please pay attention. One of the greatest milers of the era, Australian John Landy, made numerous high-profile attempts to break the 4-minute mark, but fell short each time. His efforts served to reinforce the widely held myth of the times, and for 9 years, all efforts to break the barrier proved unsuccessful. Then a British medical student named Roger Bannister decided he might be able to break the record and began training. It started with a thought. Thoughts are things. They are real as this container of water. It started with a thought. I might be able to do this. So he began training. He took his goal and broke it into manageable pieces, 1/4 of a mile in less than a minute. Each day during his 30-minute lunch break at Oxford, Bannister worked on running 10 consecutive 59-second 1/4 miles with 2 minutes of rest in between. 30 minutes a day. 30 minutes a day. He took his big goal, broke it down into 4 smaller goals, and set out to run 1/4 mile in less than 60 seconds. He ran 10 consecutive 1/4 miles every day in less than 60 seconds with a 2-minute break in between. By continually achieving 1/4 of his goal, Bannister began to believe. On May 6, 1954, a triumphant Roger Bannister ran the miracle mile in 3 minutes, 59.4 seconds. Now, listen to this, because this is the really cool part of the story. Bannister's miracle mile is widely used to illustrate the power of positive attitude, of believing in possibilities. What is often missed is the subplot about the equal but opposite power of myth. John Landy, who had famously tried to achieve the 4-minute mile for years, would go on to break Bannister's new record in less than 2 months. He failed for 9 years. Once it was achieved, he would go on to break that record in less than 2 months. In other words, the impossible became possible. And today, high school kids all over the world are running the mile in less than 4 minutes. Once you try and achieve one thing you thought might be possible, it becomes easier and easier for you to see the impossible and then achieve it. So, questions. What's your 4-minute mile? 30 listings in 30 days? Maybe? Possibly? Is that realistic? Should you even ask that question? Is it $10,000 a month in passive income? Is that your 4-minute mile? Is that possible? You know, Linda McKissick and Jimmy McKissick earned $10 million in passive income last year. Wow. Right? So is it possible? Is that your 4-minute mile? Is it to be in Gary Keller's top 100 and be a part of his mastermind and fly to Austin 4 times a year to sit in a room with the top 100 agents and all of Keller Williams? Yeah. Is that your 4-minute mile? Is your 4-minute mile to build an organization that gives back $1 million a year to help the homeless? Is that your 4-minute mile? What is it? Have you thought about it? Do you believe you can do it? How do you know? Is it realistic? Who knows? Who cares? All right. Talk to me. Tell me what you heard, Vicki.
Well, you know,